Hi, in this video we will cover non-essential elements. So let's start. Non-essential elements are descriptive words, phrases, or clauses that aren't necessary for the sentence to make sense. In other words, if non-essential elements are removed from a sentence, that sentence will still be grammatically correct. For example, NASCAR drivers who endure in-car temperatures of over 130 degrees Fahrenheit lose between 5 to 10 pounds of water weight during each race. Now, the part between who and Fahrenheit, which is in bold here, is a clause which describes drivers, which is the subject of the sentence. But it's not essential to the sentence. So, if you take it out, it shouldn't affect the sentence. NASCAR drivers lose between 5 to 10 pounds of water weight during each race. So because you can take this part out of the sentence, it's called a non-essential element or a non-essential clause. Okay, so in your official SAT, you're likely to see 1 to 2 questions that require you to appropriately punctuate a non-essential clause. Non-essential elements must be separated from the rest of the sentence. This separation can be accomplished with commas, parentheses, or dashes. Okay, number one, at the beginning or end of a sentence, punctuation is only needed on one side of the non-essential clause. All right. Okay. So, more commonly referred to as the northern lights, the aurora borealis is better known than its southern equivalent, the aurora australis. Okay, so first we have a non-essential clause at the beginning of the sentence. So if we have a non-essential clause at the beginning of the sentence, we only need a punctuation on one side of the non-essential clause or element, right? And here it would be straight after the Northern Lights. So in the correct version, you can see more commonly referred to as the Northern Lights, comma, the aurora borealis is better known than the southern equivalent, the aurora australis. Okay. Number two, if the non-essential clause in the middle of the sentence, the punctuation is needed on the both sides of the non-essential clause. Okay. So the aurora borealis, more commonly referred to as the northern lights, is much better known than its southern equivalent, the aurora australis. Okay, so since this non-essential clause is in the middle of the sentence, we need to separate it on both ends from the rest of the sentence, and we can use either dashes or commas. All right, we can also use parentheses. So the correct version is the aurora borealis dash, more commonly referred to as the northern lights dash, is better known than its southern equivalent, the aurora australis. Okay, so the most common mistake that is made with non-essential clauses is mixing it with different punctuation marks. Okay, so if you're using comma, use commas across two sentences, and if you're using dashes, use dashes across sentences. The aurora borealis dash, more commonly referred to as the northern lights, comma, is better known than its southern equivalent, the aurora australis. All right, so the main error here is that first we've used a dash and then we've used a comma. If you're going to use the comma, use commas both the times. Use dashes both of the times and use parentheses both the times. Okay, so what are the tips? Be consistent. That's what we covered in the last slide as well. Number two, don't worry about the difference between commas, parentheses, and dashes. While commas, parentheses, and dashes are sometimes better in particular contexts, the SAT won't test you on these minor differences. In other words, you will never be asked to choose between two types of punctuation marks if the choices don't create other grammar errors. So don't sweat it. Number three, don't pair semicolons and colons. Okay, so commas, parentheses, and dashes are the only options when separating non-essential element from the rest of the sentence. Please do not use two semicolons to do it. Okay, so let's do a practice question. The sandhill crane, a large bird native to North America, has the longest fossil history of any extant bird at 10 million years. Okay, so here in the non-underlined part, we have a comma. So that is comma at one end of the non-essential element. In the underlined part, we need to see where should we put our comma, right? We can't use dashes because we already can see one comma. If you look at option number D, here we have a comma after crane, right? So the non-essential clause starts after crane and ends at North America, and that seems like the correct option. So yeah, that's how you handle the non-essential elements. There were some interesting detail and minute details in this video. I hope you noted this. If you are still confused, you can watch this video again. In the next video, we will cover another topic.